Hello, my name is William, also known as WLSAC on Twitch. Today we will be going over the black cards of Guilds of Ravnica. Joining me is also Aaron, aka Pay the Toll. Say hello, Aaron.
Hello, everyone.
We also have Tyler, aka I See You When You Stream. You're allowed to say hello.
Hello,
as well.
Aaron.
Haha,
Hello, Aaron.
Funny.
Haha.
Ian will be joining us. He is working on some last-minute homework because he wants to be a lawyer, something dumb, I don't know, some kind of
Overachiever.
some kind of overachiever life goals. But we have permission to start without him, so we're going to jump into black, and he will join us momentarily. That being said, black card number 1, Barrier of Bones. It is a 1 mana, so a single black, for a skeleton wall. It is an 0/3. It's a common. It has Defender. Thank you for the host, Pay the Toll. It has Defender, and what that means is it can attack, and when it enters the battlefield, Surveil 1. And we dove pretty deep on Surveil in the blue video, so please go and watch that if you want to hear a little bit more on some of the applications of Surveil.
Yeah, this card's an enabler. There are cards that care about Surveil. This is a common that's cheap that surveils.
Yep.
It's like kind of it. If you want Surveil, this is like one of the more low-end cards that does it, but it does do it and it's playable. It's kind of it.
Yeah, the fact that it's a 1-drop with 3 toughness also can gum up the ground against some aggro decks. So that's also something that if you end up with a lot of them at the end of the draft in your sideboard, you may want to look at bringing those in just to kind of slow the game down a little bit.
I'm actually not entirely sure how much 3 toughness is good with Mentor, because like I feel like guys get big real fast.
That's
in this
true.
format.
That's very true.
Like I think that like an 0/3 and other formats would like kind of lock up the ground pretty consistently in like the 2 and 3 drops maybe, but I think it's less the case in this format. So I think this card like is only really you really only want in your deck if you care about the Surveil. So if you don't care about the Surveil, I don't think you want to play this card.
Yeah, that's reasonable. There are a lot of mentors that can outclass it pretty quick.
Yeah.
Surveil matters cards are going to want this, and anything else in limited is not. So
No.
I think it's going to be a solid filler card. So 2 out of 4.
Gotcha. We also covered the rating system in the white video, so please refer back to that for some of those numbers. Rated about a 1.5, so it's really kind of your lower end draft chaff.
Yeah. 1.5, 5 for constructed because of the wall deck, obviously.
Okay. Yep. If you're playing Arcades Black, run Barrier.
4 color walls.
5 color walls, of course.
Oh yeah, when we get to red, we'll talk about when we actually make a 5
the new
color.
chain whirler.
Right.
Okay.
So on to Bartizan Bats, I guess. 3 and a black for a creature, bat. It's a 3/1. It's a common, and it has flying. This is just
fine.
Yeah, this is just black's flyer in the set. It's a common flyer, probably going to be your 23rd-ish card. Just kind of low impact. 3/1.
There are a non-zero amount of pingers in the set, but like they aren't. There's not super common. Like they're not all over the place, but they do exist. It is a free power flyer for 4 mana. Like this card's fine at the 4-drop slot. Like for black,
Yeah.
okay.
You won't be excited to run it, but if one ends up in your sealed pool or in your draft deck, you probably won't hate yourself for it.
I completely agree with those assessments. It's a solid 1.5.
That's also where I had it.
I'll have it as 2. I like flyers a bit more because I like just the decks that this kind of go into are like the control decks where you just like kind of stabilize the ground and just like beat for 3. So I tend to like those decks a bit more, but yeah, I'll have it at 2 or something.
Yep. Seems reasonable. Not too far off on that one. All right. We'll look at Blood Operative. This one has a little bit more text than the last 2 cards. So Blood Operative is a 3-drop. It's 1 black for a vampire assassin. It's a rare. It's a 3/1. It has lifelink. And it says when Blood Operative enters the battlefield, you may exile target card from a graveyard. And whenever you surveil, if Blood Operative is in your graveyard, you may pay 3 life. If you do, return Blood Operative to your hand.
So this card, real quick, is nuts and looted. Like, very, very nuts and looted.
For sure.
I mostly want to talk about this card in Constructed, though, because I think this card is a Constructed playable card. A lot of black decks, at least last format, with red being as prevalent as it was, despite Chain Wheeler being a very prevalent red card and this card having 1 toughness, the black decks have wanted a 3 to 4 mana lifelink creature that's like playable in their decks, and I think this is it. Paying 3 life to bring it back means it's just fine. Against red decks, you might not always want to do that, but I think it's always fine to have it as a lifelink body. But the thing where I like this is that it's a lifelink body against the red decks, and against the not red decks, it's this thing that never dies.
Right.
The Incidental Grave Hate thing, I think, will be not super relevant in Standard. I don't really see. Yeah, in the mirror, obviously, you get their Blood Operative, which is cool. But there's like, I've noticed there's less graveyard stuff. Like Golgari has some stuff, but I've not been impressed with the like really hard Undergrowth decks so far, and there's less like there's no Gear Hulks anymore to like flashback spells. There's a new like Snapcaster Mage card, but we talked about that and said we didn't like it that much.
Right.
So I don't know if the Grave Hate's going to be super relevant, but the other lines, like all the other lines of text, are very relevant. Like Lifelink and the returning recursive nature of this card makes it, I think, a very good threat in a deck that has a lot of surveil.
It does also hit Jumpstart, which is a new mechanic that we covered in the blue video as well.
Correct.
That allows you to cast spells out of your graveyard by discarding a card. And I believe that text on the cards will be a very relevant counterpart to this. So
that's a good point. Yeah, it does hit the Chemist's Insight, which is, I didn't think of that. Yeah, that card's a nice one to get rid of, because that is like, I think, going to be a very important card for the control decks.
Something very interesting that I didn't realize until I read the release notes for Guilds of Ravnica, but if you surveil this card into your graveyard, say from the new Snapcaster Mage, or even the Wall of Bones that we talked about a moment ago, Barrier of Bones, excuse me, if that card is the card you surveilled, you can pay 3 life to return it to your hand, because it's in the graveyard as the ability is resolving, I do believe, I think is the official wording on it. So you can pay the 3 life to essentially turn all of your surveil cards into draw a card. Just pretty cool. It's what kind of jumped this card up to the next level for me.
Yeah, this card, being able to surveil this card, there's a lot of testing that has to go, like, kind of what deck this card wants to be in. I messed around with, like, a blue-black, like, heavy surveil kind of control deck that just has 4 of these. But, like, there might be some... We talked about Dream Eater, or the 6-drop, the flash guy that bounces the thing. There might be some, like, tempo-y, like, mid-range deck with surveil, and, like, that card with this card seems nuts, right? Like, being able to surveil 4... is like pretty reasonable to get this in your graveyard and then just like get it back in your hand. So then the flash guy becomes a like draw card, like scry a bunch, bounce a guy, flying flash, like that. It becomes much better with this card.
Definitely.
Where do you have it, Tyler?
In Constructed, I like this card quite a bit. I like it at a... I'll put it as a 3, because it does need to, like... Your deck has to have a solid number of surveil cards, which I don't think is a downside. Like, because I think there's plenty of cards with surveil that are Constructed playable, but, like, you do need to consciously be building around that. In Limited, I think this card is nuts. I'll put it as a 3.5, because, again, I think this card's a very demure card. Even though this card's technically not multicolored, you really want to be blue-black, because you really just want to take every surveil card you possibly can with this card. So you can play this card in the Golgari deck technically, but it's much less effective there. So I won't put it as a 4. I'll put it as like a 3.5.
Yeah, I have it as
William,
a 3. I have it as a 3.5 in both. The card is just kind of an unkillable threat unless you have some kind of exile effect. The fact that it has lifelink that offsets the pay 3 life clause. The card just meshes very well with itself and has synergies set wide.
I agree exactly with those sentiments, and that's why I put it at 3.5 for each as well. So
Ian, I know you have some thoughts on this card. If you wanna share
Yeah.
some of those on Blood Octopus.
Sorry for being a little late.
You good?
So I'm not the biggest fan of this card, but I think it's mostly because of it's a 3/1, so the amount of like good attacks it'll have isn't insane, and also I don't necessarily want my lifelinking creature to, while it is recurable, you basically just take lifelink off the card, and then there's no like pay 3 life clause, because I don't think that there's a chance that you're gonna really be able to attack through anybody's creatures very well with this, and it doesn't block well because it has 1 toughness. So I don't really know what the point of the card is. Like, while yes, it has inherent value and I get that, I just don't foresee like what deck is going to be able to use this card to such an advantage that it's going to do more than like another 3-drop. Like, if you want the lifelink ability, like, then there's other 3-drops that will gain you life, like Deathcord Scavenger. Obviously it's not in black, but and then like the recurring threat thing, there's other cards that are recurring threats, and I don't know necessarily if the paying 3 life to put it back to your hand if you surveil is like if you can do it often enough when it's like relevant. I don't know. I just don't see where this card really fits in. Obviously it's a deck that doesn't exist yet, so we'll see what happens, but I'm just a little worried that you're not going to be able to live the dream. It's just going to keep dying, and then you keep paying 3 life, and then you have to keep casting it again. If it went to the battlefield, I think this card would be nuts. But if it just goes back to your hands, you still have to recast it.
If it went to the battlefield, there'd probably be some infant combo with it.
Yeah,
But-
probably. So all that being said, Ian, do you have a number for it?
I think that this card is better in limited than it is in constructed.
Yeah, you agree it's nuts and limited, right? This card's
Yeah,
just like clear.
well, any kind of recurring threat like that is just gonna always be nuts and limited, just because there's less cards in general that like can deal with it recurringly. But in constructed, where you can play like 4 of whatever kind of, kill spell you want, or it's a lot easier to deal with this card in constructed. So yeah, in this, I think it's like a 4 in limited. Like, I would first pick this card a lot in limited, but in constructed, like, I need to see where the deck is, so I'm going to put it as a 2, just because I think that there's not enough synergy to make a deck around this card, but it does fit into a deck. I just don't really know what that deck is or what it looks like.
Yeah, it'll be one of those things that evolves as the format kind of develops.
Yeah, and I'm sure that there's probably some Orzhov card in the next set that's going to make this card really nutty.
He is right, though, that there's no like current home. There's no like crossover through rotation this really fits into, but there's not a lot surviving because like all the decks last season were just Kaladesh decks.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, I agree that there really isn't a lot of decks going forward, but I feel like a lot of the guild mechanics and the really pushed constructed cards in this set are very easy to find the deck that they're supposed to be in. They kind of build themselves. Like, obviously you put the Boros card in the Boros deck and the Celestia card in the Celestia deck, but I think that the blue and black cards, they do have a little bit more finagling to figure out how you actually want to construct a deck around the card.
Yeah,
So
Demir definitely
hard
goes.
I was just gonna say it's very similar to the Sphinx, the Mythic Sphinx for blue. It's like,
Yeah.
it's obviously inherently powerful, but I don't know how we can actually make a deck that can use it in the right way.
Demir for sure is definitely pulling in different directions, whereas Boros is like very clear what it wants to do. Like, Demir is doing a couple things. Like Golgari is very clear. It's like pretty clear. There's kind of 2 different things with Izzet. We'll get more into that with the red cards. But yeah, Demir, there's cards that do kind of everything. So it is less obvious as to where the good Demir decks will go.
Yep.
Sounds good. Are we ready for Burglar Rats?
Sure.
Alright, Burglar Rats is 1 and a black for a creature, rat. It is a common, it's a 1/1, and it says when Burglar Rat enters the battlefield, each opponent discards a card. So this is
So I think this card sucks, but like, it's a card that I'm gonna play and probably take higher than I should.
it's just a reprint of Ravenous Rats, we determined, right?
No, because it's each opponent instead of each player. So it's actually better.
No, Ravenous Rats was like target opponent.
Yeah,
or
target
something like
opponent
that.
was Ravenous Rats.
I guess in
Yeah, it's just-
I guess in Commander it's better.
Yeah, sure.
Or Two-Headed Giant.
Yeah,
So,
for Rat
yeah.
Tribal for your commander deck, obviously.
Obviously.
Or Canlander.
Yeah, this card's pretty garbo.
Yeah, super not interesting. The fact that there's so many graveyard-based synergies in this set, letting your opponent discard a card for free could punish you, but it's still probably playable.
I mean, yeah, I don't think
I
that's
don't
a
know.
reason to not play this card. I think that if I'm running low on like 2 drops, or if I just need another playable, my 23rd card, I'd play this. That's about it.
Yeah, like the Golgari decks just want a ton of creatures because of Undergrowth,
Right.
and like this is like one of those like, oh, I just need another creature that dies.
Yeah.
I actually
It's a
would
creature that
prefer
dies.
for this card to just say target player discards a card, so that if
So you can like
wanted
target
to-
yourself.
Yeah, if you wanted it to have some synergy there, it would be more playable in my opinion. But
Yeah, that'd be.
I think you're right.
Yeah, I think it definitely would be more playable. Said target player.
With this 1/1 though is so much worse than all the other 1/1s we've seen. Like,
yeah, and this one costs 2 mana.
yeah, exactly.
Alright, cool.
All right, ready for Child of Night?
Did you get numbers on that one?
Oh nope, I forgot about numbers. Yeah,
Oh.
we want to do some quick numbers on Burglar Rats. I know we're all pretty low on it.
Just gonna put
One.
1 on. Yeah, 1.
Yep, I was kind of a 1 as well.
I'm at a 2 on
0.
that. I think it's gonna see play more than you guys think. So
I'm probably gonna play it more than I should because I like this card like screams. There's a slight possibility for a 2-for-1, so I'm like, those cards I'm gonna take higher than I should, but I don't think it's
Nah, man, you're gonna burglar rat someone, and then someone's gonna discard their Nullhide Ferox, and you're gonna get wrecked.
no. They're gonna discard their Blood Operative and just be like, what up?
No, Nullhide Ferox comes into play. Come on, it's so much better.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, we didn't get to that one yet. All right.
Child of Night. It's a reprint. 1 and a black for a vampire. It's a common. It's a 2/1. It has lifelink.
How many times has this card been reprinted? I feel
A
like it's got to be at
lot.
least 6.
Yeah,
Like-
probably more than 6.
Probably.
It's-
It's been printed a lot. It's
Definitely.
always just fine. It's just a 2-drop with lifelink. It trades. It gains you 2 life. Like, end of story. There's not really much to say with the card. It blocks and attacks through a guy. They should block it. They probably will. It just trades. It's like good for the decks that just want to go a little bit later. It's a good 2-drop for those decks.
And it's another 2-drop that just dies and sometimes can like
Yes.
trade up or even, and you're just fine with that. Just stocking up your graveyard.
it is 12 times this card has been reprinted.
Jeez.
Most
Yes.
commonly in core sets and any sets that involve vampires.
Let's say I have like an M15 Child of Night like on my desk. I'm pretty sure. So yeah, this card's been printed a million times.
I've got this at like
Just-
a 1.25. Again, if you have some graveyard synergies, specifically the Undergrowth mechanic that'll come up later, this card's like fine in those kind of decks. Other than that,
I put it as a 2 because I put all my bears at 2s. I will continue to put all my bears at 2 as a bear.
It's not a bear. It's
Two.
not.
It's a bear.
There's no 2 toughness.
It's a
It's not a
piker.
It
bear.
doesn't matter.
It's a
It
va-
has Pikers are
also,
bears.
it's a vampire.
Yeah, whatever. It's a 2
Ian,
power.
where do you
2
have it at?
I think that this is fine in a like a Dimir deck that you want to have. You want to kind of be a little more greedy, and then you can use this card as like a way to stem bleeding from like the Boros or Selesnya aggressive decks. So I think this card's going to see play as a 2 in limited.
interesting.
I always think limited is better than it is in, or sorry, lifelink is better in limited than it is. So
I'm at a 1.5 on it. It's not quite a bear, but it's not quite unplayable. So
Bear.
Creeping Chill, 3 and a black for a sorcery. It's an uncommon. Creeping Chill deals 3 damage to each opponent, and you gain 3 life. When Creeping Chill is put into your graveyard from your library, you may exile it. If you do, Creeping Chill does 3 damage to each opponent, and you gain 3 life. So if you surveil it, it's a free lightning helix that can only go face.
So I think there's like a combo deck with this card and another card we're gonna get to in like 1, 2, 3 cards or whatever. I've heard about. I'm not entirely. I can't remember exactly how it works, but it involves. There's a demon we're gonna get to later that you could pay life to surveil,
Mhm.
and then you just have a bunch of these, and you just kind of like chain them together, to do a bunch of damage, and then you mill a bunch of cards, and you have like Narcomoebas and stuff. I don't know. It doesn't sound very good to me, but it does exist. People are going to try to play this card in Constructed as a like quote unquote combo card to like mill most of your deck with the demon we're gonna get to later. I'm not a fan. I'm not a believer in it in Constructed, but in Limited, I also think this card is quite bad. It's 4 mana if you ever draw it, which is terrible for this effect. Also, this effect doesn't actually like affect the board in any way. So even like if you mill it and you're like, oh, free value, like you're just gaining some life and dealing some damage, which is not really what you want in a Surveil deck. Maybe the game life is kind of nice, but like not enough for a card.
Yeah, I also agree that this card is like not good in Limited at all.
It is
I think-
good in Two-Headed Giant. Let me preface that.
That's
It
very
does
true.
do 6, and you do still only gain 3, but you get
I
to deal
s-
6.
I don't think this. I wouldn't play this card in Two-Headed Giant either. Like if this card said deal 6 when like the life totals are higher, I'm still not playing this card. It doesn't
better
affect the board.
Lava Axe.
Yeah, I wouldn't play Lava Axe either.
I'd play
This is Lava Axe that gains you life.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
but I'm
like-
not gonna play that in my like Surveil Dimir deck. Like, like
Yeah,
this
I
is
don't
not
think
a red
that
card.
this card is a constructed card for sure.
Yeah, this is definitely a constructed seed for something like some like fancy like mill yourself a whole bunch, and this is like definitely a seed with the demon we're gonna get to later. But yeah, even so, I'm not a fan of the all-in combo version. I'm gonna give this card a 1 in Limited and a 1 in Constructed.
So this card is really cool. I think the idea of it's cool. The flavor of it's really cool. I think that there is a chance that this could see play with a black burn deck because there's the 2 mana
Sovereign's
card
Bite?
from Sovereign's Bite. So Tyler knows that I wanted to make that card like legit. I wanted to like try something with it because there was a good amount of burn spells, and I was just like, I'm just gonna try to put all the burn spells into one deck and see if we can like make a standard burn deck. And I don't know. I think that there's a chance with Creeping Chill and Sovereign's Bite now as another one. I don't know if it's that good. You could also, if you're gonna be Dimir, you can play the Snapcaster Mage, and then if you don't exile it from your graveyard and you just by accidentally like draw it, you can obviously just cast it for 4 mana, and then for 6 mana you can flash it back into it again.
Now, ready? You play the Riverwise Augur, so you can brainstorm it back on top of your library, so then you can
Yeah.
avail.
There you go. Look, Brainstorm in Standard.
That's
Yeah,
right.
call,
Brainstorm isn't standard. That card is standard play, standard legal technically.
yeah, call me when Brainstorm doesn't cost, what, 5 mana, 4 mana?
It's
four.
It's
4
4
mana.
mana. It's just
you
a
get
Mind
a 3/2.
Sculptor.
You get a 3.
Yeah. It's literally just a Mind Sculptor. It's 4 mana to play this card. You brainstorm, they bolt it, and it dies. It's
Oh my
literally
God.
just a Mind Sculptor.
All right, I'm gonna 2 on this. I think it'll get played more than you guys think.
I agree.
And-
No, I think this card's like a 2
I-
2.5.
I had it as a 2.5 in Constructed just because I want to see those decks and I want to encourage somebody to build those decks for me.
Amen, brother. Brew all day, every day.
Yep.
Of course, we'll go play it.
All right.
All right, Dead Weight, another classic reprint. Dead Weight is 1 black for an aura. It has enchant creature, and enchanted creature gets -2, -2.
Okay. I want to be very clear that this card is better than Shock, which is like a thing I see people comparing this card to Shock a lot. This card's way better than Shock because it turns a 3/3 into a 1/1, which essentially makes it dead.
Right.
So like this card essentially in like a 2/3 even more into an 0/1. So this card is never like dead. Whereas Shock, if your opponent just has a bunch of 4/4s and 3/3s, Shock does like nothing. This card never does nothing. This card's a very high pick and may see constructor play. Did wait see constructor play before. The last time I saw play, it cared about the enchantment type. So I'm not sure
And
now.
Again, abs and
You could-
enchantments, baby.
Well, I was talking more about Delirium, like what's
Oh.
why.
But
Yeah.
it is an enchantment for
Um,
Satyr Enchantress.
Yeah,
Jeez.
nah. But it is like this card would not shock me if it's all playing standard. This is like a sideboard card I'll be thinking of in my black deck if I want a 1 mana removal spell, and I'm not like undergrowthing with the other card.
The The other card, the Exiles.
Yeah, so I'll have this as like a 1.5 in standard is like on my radar for sideboard, and this card's like a 3 in limited probably. It's quite good.
Yeah, that's pretty much where I had it at as well.
This card's sweet. Yeah, just a good removal spell for 1 mana.
Oh.
In limited.
The card's been reprinted a million times.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll see constructed play, but maybe sideboards, sure.
I'm at 2.75 in constructed, or in limited, and like a 2.25 in constructed. I think it'll see play more often than not in constructed as just a sweet 1 mana removal spell. We don't have Fatal Push anymore, so.
Yeah.
It fights with like Moment of Craving, kind of. But like, there's some versions where Moment of Craving gains your life, obviously, and is an instant. But like, this is 1 mana cheaper, and can like, you can put this on a Goblin Chainwhirler and make it 1/1. Like, so.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, it's like it'll be like black decks will have that option of like whether they want Moment of Craving or whether they want dead weight, but like that depends like if a new like how many 2/3s are played, how many 3 toughness is played, how because if Moment of Craving's like playable and killing stuff normally, then like Moment of Craving's probably better than this because it gains you 2 life, and then and like as a sideboard card, but it's going to be it's a thought. It's like it's like those 2 cards are competing for like kind of the same spot.
Yeah. I'm gonna do 3 in limited and 2 in constructed, just because I think it's strictly a sideboard card.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Alright, Deadly Visit. 3 black for a sorcery. It's a common. Destroy target creature. Surveil 2.
Has this card ever not been printed in limited? Like the 5 mana destroy target creature, random keyword?
Yeah.
It's always in there, bud.
It's always in there, it's always fine.
You'll always
That was
play
good.
at least the first one, if not the second
Yeah.
and third one.
It's a 3 in limited.
I
Always.
played 4 of these.
Oh, I played like 7.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Unless
Yeah,
this
this
format
card's
where the Mentor is just insanely fast. This is just you'll play. as
Even
many as
so,
you can
just
get.
take your O3 walls, take your stuff, just figure it out.
Get your payoff cards.
Yeah, like this card is a like if you don't have a good uncommon or rare, like this is gonna be your first pick in those packs.
For
But
sure.
yeah, it's just the kill spell.
And has no constructed applications whatsoever.
No,
Just way too expensive.
Yeah, no.
3 in limited.
Just
unplayable
look at
in
that and then
standard.
look at Vraska's Contempt.
Yeah.
I'll put this as like a 3.5 in limited.
Yeah, you're probably closer to being right there.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I
the
don't think you
surveil is
ever-
not nothing. Like the surveil is not nothing in this card.
For sure. Yeah.
And like
I upgraded
Eviscerate
it,
was like a super high pick.
definitely.
This card's 1 more mana with surveil.
Yeah.
All
And
right.
Surveil 2, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
Alright, time for the Nightmare Demon. Doom Whisperer, 3 black, Nightmare Demon, like I said. It's a mythic. It's a 6/6, so 6/6 for 5. It has Flying and Trample, and Pay 2 life, Surveil 2. So we
A
alluded to
playable
this
demon?
card a little bit earlier, and this card is just a house. I mean, it's a 5 mana 6/6, Flying Trample with upside. Usually demons historically have had downsides attached to this one, but this one is pure upside.
Yeah. So I think
card's amazing.
before we start talking, I think we can all agree that this card is obviously the nut in limited. You'll never ever take anything over this card in limited. I think that our conversation is going to be strictly constructed.
Yep, 100%.
Playability. That being said, I am a bit of a hater on this card.
Yeah?
I don't think it's unplayable. But I'm going to say I don't think it's unplayable. I think this card is playable. By the way, this is the card with the Creeping Chill where you like the sort of combo-y deck where you surveil a bunch with this and gain life with the Creeping Chill, but like or Creeping Chill. I don't think that's a real thing. But on its face, let's look at this card as just a giant thing. I think I compare this card to Lyra Dawnbringer the most in standard, or it's just a big flying pile of stats.
Right.
And I don't think Lyra Dawnbringer is a very main deckable card. And I kind of fall on the same spot with this card. I don't think this card is nuts as a like main deck finisher in like a mid-range or control deck. I'm not. This card does not like do anything. It's just a big thing, and there are plenty of ways to kill big things in standard.
It's Colossal Dreadmaw, but with flying.
It costs 1 less.
Yeah.
but it's still a big dumb thing. So
I think you guys are all evaluating the pay 2 life Surveil 2 to just manipulate the top of your library like not high enough. I think it's really, really important to look at this card as just a way to, because even if they kill it, you get to still do the surveilling. Like obviously you're gonna pay life, but it's really, I think that's a really, really important thing when you analyze and analyze this card, because you get something out of it. With Lyra, if it dies when you play it, it just dies. I don't think that this is a good comparison. Also, there's more things that kill Lyra. So, like, the fight with fire doesn't kill this. So I think Red is going to have an incredibly hard time ever killing this thing, and they're going to be dead very often. Also, this isn't a legendary, so you can have multiple of these. You can just play them back to back. With Lyra, you can't do that. Yeah, I think this card is nuts. I've never seen us get a card where it's just understat or overstated for the cost and there's no downside at this high of a cost. Like at this, like there's been like 3 mana 4/4s before, but like a 5 mana 6/6 with keywords is kind of nuts. And then I think the paying life and surveilling is really, really important.
Yeah, I think it's important because I think there's a big divide in this, and I've heard both sides by many different people. Like some people think this card is the best card in the set.
I disagree on that one.
No, yeah, I don't think it's the best card in the set. Obviously, I gave my opinions of how I think it's like fine and like probably a sideboard card. I do have it in decks I've been working on when we talked about earlier with the Blood Operative, with like the like mid-rangey Surveil Matters cards. Like I have played copies of that in like those kind of decks where like as like a 2 of, where just I want more good Surveil cards, and this is a good Surveil card. But I've heard people talk about this card in like as like a 4 of in like Grixis mid-range or something, or like as a 4 of in like even like Grixis Control as like the finisher. I don't see it there. I don't see it as a like finisher. I see it as like a big thing that does die, and not something that will you play this card and ends the game, which I think I've seen people kind of suspect that that's what it does. And what you said with the red cards not being able to kill it, like you're right that there's no mono red cards that kill this, but the new Boros Justice Strike does kill this, which that's I think most of the red decks will be Boros, but not guaranteed. Like there might be some Flame of Kill like mono red decks, so and like those decks certainly like can't kill this card with 1 card. It's just no way. They have to like use 2 lightning strikes or something, and like if they use 2 lightning strikes in this, you're usually pretty happy. It is big. Its 6/6 flying trample is huge.
Yeah,
but I'm just not.
Can we go a little bit deeper here? Is there any modern applications of this card? There's a card called Phyrexian Arena that makes me think that there might be. Or
why is Phyrexian Arena?
Phyrexian on Life. Sorry.
Phyrexian on Life.
Why does that card make you think that you can?
Can't you basically go to 0 and like get to the combo part of your deck with this card?
You can. If you have Phyrexian on Life out, you can pay. You can just put your entire graveyard into your entire deck into your graveyard, and then play a Lab Maniac and win. Because
So
you can't pay more life than you have.
Yeah, so you can go to 0.
You can Angels Race it then. Like
that also doesn't work. Once you get to 0 life, you have no more life to pay. So the thing is, ad nauseum makes you lose life. No. So you can lose a bunch of life. If this said like Surveil 2, lose 2 life, then you could do it over and over again. Because it says pay 2 life, you can only pay life that you have. So if you go to 0 or 1, you can no longer activate the ability. Even if you have a Phyrexian life, even if you have an
get through a third of your deck with this card.
Yeah, but this card costs the same as ad nauseum, right?
It was just an idea. You know, it's worth thinking about sometimes.
Yeah, but then you have to play Doom Whisperer in Modern.
Well, again, if people play this card, it's obviously not going to be fair. Like, I don't think this card's going to be like a fair card.
No, definitely not.
Right. So there may be some applications somewhere of some stupid combo where you just use this card to dump your whole library into your graveyard, which maybe there's something in Legacy, like, I don't know, maybe like in like normal Dredge and Legacy, you can somehow Dread Return this when you're like not Oops All Spells Dredge, but like you Dredge Return this and then this mills the rest of your library or something, with some other combo. I don't know. I, I, I don't see it. I don't know of it. Maybe there's something busted, but like I'm not concerned about that. I'm just really concerned about constructed or standard. I mean,
yeah, very true. I think there's a much more spicier card later on that I'm itching to get to for Dredge. Has anybody else got any numbers for me? I see that I have mine.
We're all 4 unlimited.
Yep, I know we're all 4 unlimited.
I have it as like a. Go ahead.
You can go. No, you can go.
Okay, I'll give it like a 2.5 in standard.
Okay.
I think it's a 3.5. I think people are going to use it despite Tyler not thinking it's good. Like, I think that even if it isn't good, people are still going to try to use it.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
So,
this card will be played I think this card will be played way more early on than later in the season when, like, the decks become more tuned. But, like, the same thing with Lyra.
I'm at a 2.5 as well, Tyler, so.
Yeah.
For the same reasons.
Yeah. Alright, let's try to barrel through some of these junker commons so we can get a real spice. Dowser and Lights is a 5 mana, so 4 and a black. For a horror, it is a 4/5. It is a common, and it only has flavor text.
Be ready to last pick this card when you're not in black in draft.
Yep. This card is constantly going to be at the end of every pack, and you're going to have far too many of them, and you're going to be giving out to children staying outside your comic book store for days.
Not completely unplayable. Can possibly make your deck. Like, casting this card's not the end of the world, but, like, you will last pick this card. That easy enough.
Give me a number, Tyler.
1.5.
Ooh, higher than I am. I had a 1.25.
I'm just going to give it 1.
Yep, I also had it as a 1. All right. So this is one that I think we're going to have a little bit of contention on as well. Gruesome Menagerie. 3 black for a sorcery. It's a rare, and it says choose a creature card with converted mana cost 1 in your graveyard, and then do the same for creature cards with converted mana cost 2 and 3. Return those cards to the battlefield.
All right.
This is
I'm
another
gonna start
card
us off here. I'm gonna start us off. I think this card is going to see play in Modern, and it's going to be in a Abzan combo deck, counters company style deck. I think we're gonna see more mill
what 3
strategy.
pieces do you see bringing back with these?
Viscera, Anafenza, or Malira. I know there's multiple Anafenzas, so the 2 mana Anafenza,
the bolster one,
and then the 2 mana Malira, and then Kitchen Finks is Infinite Life, and I believe that eventually we'll get to more combos as well, and that's like just the baseline combo.
Murderous Redcap also. Well, that one's 4, isn't it?
That's a 4 drop.
That's a 4
That costs
drop,
4.
yeah.
Vizier Remedies is going to be your 2 drop most of the time, by the way, because you're probably going to stick in the infinite mana combo as well, because the Vizier of Remedies also works with Kitchen Finks and Vizier's here.
Does it? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just, this is just, I think this card's going to see play in Modern, and it's going to be just like, you stall the game out, and then you play this, and then you're suddenly up Infinite Life. And unless they can kill you with Infect, or they can mill you out, the game's over.
It does win the game in Modern if you cast it, and you have all the pieces in your graveyard. Yes.
And it's pretty quick for you to be able to fill up your graveyard in Modern with the recent release of Stitcher's Supplier, which is conveniently a 1-drop that you could bring back if you're missing like 1 or 2 combo pieces.
I'm not sure if you like want to hyper mill yourself. I think you kind of just like play this in like a company deck, and you try to combo off, and like they have to kill your stuff anyway. So after they kill your stuff, then you just like have like 1 or 2 copies of this card in your like collect company deck.
And that's
Whereas like if your guys don't die, then you just win. But like if they kill your guys and you have this, to just be like whatever. Like if they verdict you, and then you like untap and play this. That's like kind of. But let's talk about this card in limited real quick. I think this card's good. Like this card's good in limited. It's not a like slam bomb, but it's better. Obvious. I think you'll be pretty obvious when you know it's good. It's obviously good, very good if you can get back a 1. Getting back a 2 and a 3, I think, is really easy because like all your limited decks are gonna have plenty of 2s and 3s. But we saw a lot of playable 1-drops so far, and we're gonna see another one the next card, but I think it's not hard to get a playable 1-drop in this format. So I think this card's just going to be randomate 3 creatures most of the time limited. So I think this card's like quite good. In standard, I don't see it unless there's some kind of combo-y aspect to it, which maybe there's like an Aristocrats deck that plays this card. Maybe. Like if there's like they print some Blood Artist or something, and this gets back like a Blood Artist, a sack outlet, and then like a 1-drop or something, but
Definitely.
I don't know about it yet.
For sure,
I'm not sold on
something
it yet for standard.
that you'll want to look at a little deeper when the next set comes out and you get a little bit more of like the Orzhov things. There's a lot of cards in here that I think lend well to a Aristocrat strategy, so it would be kind of surprising if they don't kind of promote that archetype in standard.
Stitches of Supplier is also legal in standard, so that's something to think about with this as well.
Very true.
I'm at a 4 in constructed on this because I think it will see play in modern, and in standard not as much, and a 2.5 in limited.
I've got it as a 2.5 in limited and a 3.5 in constructed. I think it will see play, but I think it's going to be more of a brewer card. I don't know if it's going to be running the top tables, but it's certainly interesting. I certainly like it.
I have a 3.5 in limited. Constructed, I want to see. In modern, I actually have this as a 2.5 because I'm not 100% sure this goes into Counters Company. I think they'll try it, but I don't know if it'll stick. Because it is 5 mana and not a creature.
Yeah. I think this card is pretty cool. I don't really... I feel like you can play this without a combo in standard, but you need to have them be powerful in some way. I think Citrus Supplier is a worthy 1-drop for this, and then finding a 2 and 3 isn't that hard. And I think in limited this card is just a 3 for 1, so it's just gonna see play. Just 'cause of
So
that.
I know what 1 and 3 drops Ian's are going to get. Stitcher Supplier at 1. I don't know what your 2 drop's going to be, but Elvish Rejuvenator is definitely going to be the 3 drop that you're going to be returning with this.
Dude, I'd love that. And then maybe a 2-drop is Glowspore Shaman.
There
Just
you
put
go.
another land back on top of your deck.
I mean,
And also the Glowspore helps you mill into your graveyard, dude. It'd be great.
all right. I think I know what we're going to be doing after the stream.
Yeah.
I want to be real clear about one thing real quick. When I said combo and standard, I don't mean like an infinite combo. I mean like some kind of what Route of the Ancestors was when it was the standard last time, where it wasn't a hard combo, but was usually enough to like set something in place where you drain your opponent for like a bunch, draw some cards, and just like get to a point in the game where it's just like ends up being an 8 for 1 or something.
Right. Yeah. All right. On to Hired Poisoner. Hired Poisoner, single black for a human assassin. It is a common. It is a 1/1, and it has Death Touch.
It's Typhoid Rats.
Yep, Typhoid Rats.
Literally
which
limited
is,
card.
Yep, and it's another thing that you're just happy to have die in your Undergrowth decks.
Yes. This card's gonna be quite good in Golgari. It's good in Dimir too, because Dimir wants to block. This card just blocks and trades. Or holds off an army sometimes, but usually just blocks and trades. It's also like a very good 1-drop for your Gruesome Menagerie deck in limited.
Right.
Yeah, I think this card's sweet and limited.
Yeah.
Death Touch is always good.
Yeah, Typhoid Rat's always playable.
Yep. So everybody pretty much has it as a 2 or higher than that.
It's a 2. It's an honorary bear. Some trades.
You got it as a 2 as Ian, or are you higher up on it than we are?
Yeah, 2's fine.
Cool. Oh, great. Another card I don't know how to pronounce. Cruel Swarm?
I think it's Crawl.
Cruel?
I'm not sure.
One of those. It is a 5-mana spell, 4 and a black. It's a insect warrior. It's an uncommon. It's a 4/1. It has flying, but it also has 2 and a black. Discard a creature card. Return Crawl Swarm from your graveyard to your hand.
All right, someone else talk about this first, because I have some opinions that might be different.
All right, I think this card in limited is going to be very strong, as it is a reoccurring flying threat and I believe it'll probably fall around. You'll always play the first one, and I'm not sure you'll play the second. It's going to be probably a solid 3, and I'm not sure beyond that. I'm not sure if it has constructed applications. I doubt it. These cards usually fall short, but I believe there was a deck for a little point in time back in Innistrad with the cards you could bring back. But
Oh, you mean the return to Innistrad with the zombies and the
no, the
original
first
one?
Innistrad block. There was some cards that you could like or exile cards from your graveyard to get back, but this has more applications with discarding.
Gotcha. There was definitely a deck like that in Shadows over Innistrad.
Yeah, so I think in limited I have it at a 3, and constructed I probably have it at a 2.
I actually have it as a 3.5 in limited. Recursive Threat's great. It also fuels your graveyard for Undergrowth. And a 4/1 flyer is just kind of a
Undergrowth is something I didn't consider, so.
Ian,
So-
yes, are you going to be the
Ian.
dissenting thoughts on this one?
No, I think this card's great in limited.
All right, I think this card's not good in limited.
Oh, you're the dissenting thought. Was not expecting that
It's
one.
got
Yeah,
flying though,
I-
man.
I know it has flying. So I think that because you have to discard a creature card specifically to get this back, it's much worse. Like, I don't think a 5-mana 4/1 flyer is that great of a rate, and I think that recurring it by discarding other creatures that you draw later is not that good. I think this.
It's worthy to note
Go
though that the 4 power does mean that it trades with like the Cloud Reader Sphinx,
Yeah. But
which is important, I think.
yeah, but like I think that because you have to discard specifically a creature card, maybe if your deck has a bunch of bad
Yeah,
creature
that's
cards,
a lot
maybe
of
to go where you
comparison.
want. Yeah, I have this card. You guys have this all as like a 3 or 3.5. I have this card as like a 2.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think this card's like just okay. I think it'll make your deck most of the time, but I could foresee myself cutting this card a decent amount of times for my decks.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan. I think 1 toughness is like a decent amount of a drawback. Like we saw a 1-mana 1/1 flyer that's going to see a decent amount of play,
True.
and like you're not actually like throwing. It's not like if you just discard any card, this card would be nuts because you just like discard lands later in the game or something.
Right.
But the fact that you have to discard a creature card, like a real card later in the game to get this back, is not really like advantage unless you have a bunch of bad creature cards, which maybe if you're Golgari, you just have a bunch of bad creature cards, but I think that most of the time your creatures are going to be at least bears, which is going to be fine late game as well. But,
If your deck has like
Yeah.
8 Ravenous Rats, I mean,
well, yeah, then your deck sucks and you just can't ever win a game. But, like, I don't, I don't know if this card's going to save you.
fair enough. All right, ready for Lotleth Giant?
Ooh.
I love this card.
This
Alrighty.
card,
This
this
card's cool.
card's something else. Lotless
Cool.
Giant, 6 and a black for a zombie giant. It's an uncommon. It is a 6/5, and it has Undergrowth. It says when the Lotless Giant enters the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to target opponent for each creature card in your graveyard. And all the cards with the keyword Undergrowth cares about the amount of creatures in your graveyard. Clearly, this one cares about it to deal damage. Some of them care about it to give +1/+1 counters, different things like that. So when you see Undergrowth, it's simply a counting mechanic to check how many creatures are in your graveyard.
I didn't even notice this is the first Undergrowth card. Yeah, it is.
Yep.
That's funny.
This is the first Undergrowth card.
Yeah, we've talked about Undergrowth a bit before. We're being saying like if you are a Golgari deck and you have like Undergrowth things, you're gonna want to play like a normal deck might want to play like 14 to 16 creatures, whereas if you're an Undergrowth deck, you might want to play like 18, even 19, maybe even 20 creatures. Like you're gonna want to up your creature count and like play more of the creatures that are maybe a little less playable, just because you want things to fuel the Undergrowth cards. This card, real quick, this card's like 99% a limited card, and I think we'll talk about it in limited. But there's one constructed application this card has, and that is in Eternal formats.
Ooh.
Mostly, I think Legacy.
Oops, all spells.
Yes, in like the Oops All spells in the deck that basically wants to mill their entire deck and then dread return something to win the game. Like they've been using like things like Bridge from Below and all these things to like get back a bunch of zombies and then return like some like the red white card that gives them all haste and +1/+1, whatever. And then there's like some versions that get back like the angel that brings back all humans, and then like a zombie to draw a card with Lab Maniac and play. But like all this like convoluted stuff. Whereas like if you mill your entire deck and you just dread return this thing back, it'll usually just 22 them. Like you can just kill them because it's not that hard to just have like 20 something creatures in your deck.
Yep.
So especially if you're oops all spells. So I think this card is like a good. Yeah. So I think if you're like you're in any Eternal format, if your plan is to mill your entire deck and then dread return something to kill them, I think this is a new toy that's actually quite good to do that with.
And it does combo with the Buster Blade Spy combo or whatever in that deck.
Yep,
Yeah.
like the one land spy deck. Yeah, where you just like flip your whole deck and. Yeah.
That's pauper.
Just the fact. Yeah.
No, it actually it started as like a legacy deck, and then it devolved into Pauper or side volved, however you want to do it. I actually like Pauper. I won't say devolved.
So it looks like 21 to 23 creatures is the typical number.
Yeah, and you can adjust that as well with this being a new win condition, if you feel the need to. But like again, this is just all the other ways to win after you mill your entire deck are like kind of have to jump through some hoops, whereas this card is just like get it into play and just like kill them.
Oh.
So
yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, but for limited, this card's good. It's 7-drop. 7 is a lot of mana, but it's a 6/5. It's huge, and it domes them out. Like usually, by the time you get to 7 mana, you're gonna have in an Undergrowth deck, you're gonna have like 8 creatures. In a non-Undergrowth deck, you're probably gonna have like 4 at least. So if you can cast this card, it's good. But it is 7 mana, which is a lot.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree.
So yeah, I have it as like a 2.5 unlimited.
It's
A very similar deck, but this is a format that most of us know and love. But in Canadian Highlander, there are decks that try to hyper mill themselves with like Hermit Druid and things like that. They win in very similar ways to some of these dredge decks, but you can take out some more of the kind of clunkier cards, the cards you like never want to see in your hand, like the Azamis, like the Labmans, things like that. And you can kind of streamline your deck a little bit more, put a lot with Giant in a format where you have 100 cards, this card could like deal 40 or 50 to your opponent. Which, I mean, at the end of the day, 20 and 50 in Magic in normal formats is the same, but I don't know, dealing 50 with this card, so much better. So much better than dealing 20, even though they're functionally the same number.
Yeah. But yeah, it is interesting that this is like gonna be this card and Dread Returning will be best friends.
Oh yeah. So
I'm a bit higher on this Unlimited. I think it's going to be closer to a 3.5. I think this card is you're always going to play the first, and you'll rarely play the second, but I wouldn't be surprised if this card ever just can do 5 and then 8. You know, they're basically dead at that point, and then they have to deal with 6/5. So, I think this card's going to be better than you think in Limited.
Yeah, I agree. I'm closer to like a 3 though. 3.
Cost 7 so much. Oh, one more thing. In Standard, this has a chance of seeing play. Because there are a couple like 5 mana reanimation spells. So maybe if you're like a hyper mill deck with like your deck has like 30 creatures or something, that like you can just mill most of your deck and like reanimate this.
Ian, I've got another couple of cards I want you to jot down for you and I to brew around. Stitcher Supplier, Lotleth Giant, Trogar.
Trogar, yes.
Yeah, you with me on this one?
Yeah, dude, Trogar cuts their life total in half and then Walleth kills them.
Yep.
Hell yeah.
All right, write those down. We're going to talk after this.
There's the new Demir card too, where it's like surveil whatever and then reanimate a creature. Like that's the card with this.
Yep,
in
definitely.
Standard.
Yep.
Yeah.
When we get to that one, that one's going to go in the deck too.
Yeah, so this card's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think you want to in Limited you're going to cast it for 7, which is a lot, but I think in any constructed format you're like just reanimating this card.
Yep. All right. On to Mausoleum Secrets. This is an instant. It is 1 in a black for a rare. It has Undergrowth, and it says search your library for a black card with converted mana cost less than or equal to the number of creature cards in your graveyard. Reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library.
This card is awesome. I love this card. I think that it's not hard to make this card get something that you want, especially in Eternal formats, where you only need that number to be low because you're playing so many low-cost things. I don't know exactly what, but I do think that someone's going to figure out a way to break this card. So I think that in Constructed in pretty much all the formats, it's like a 3 or more. In Limited, I don't really think it's that great. It is a tutor for something, but you're going to need to be really heavy black and really heavily into milling yourself to make it get something that's going to win you the game.
Yeah. I think the only time you'll play it in Limited is if you have some kind of insane bomb like the Demon, and you know that you're just going to be popping 5 creature in the graveyard, and you just really want to cast your Demon. But those, that's combining a mythic with a rare, so the odds of that happening will only happen to me at pre-release.
Well, no, but like, so I think that is relevant because in draft, I don't think this card's gonna be taken super high. Like, I think this card's gonna be passed around. So if you open a Demon, like this card, you could realistically get this card like 9th pick online or something.
Yeah.
That being said, I actually don't think this card is like good and limited, even in that scenario. Maybe because like you need to get 5 creatures in your yard to get to like a bomb, like the Demon or whatever. But like in if you get, most bombs cost a lot of mana, right? So you're gonna need to like get a lot of creatures to get this. So by the time you get a bunch of creatures, there's a good chance you've already found your bomb, especially with the cards like with Surveil and such.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, this card is a card that does nothing in your hand, which is like an actual downside.
But it's 1 in a
So I
black 2 to
actually
your dead
think-
weight.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm probably never going to play this card in Limited. In Constructed, like Ian said, I don't know. I've seen people like try to mess around with this in Legacy and Modern and like have different ideas of what it can get and stuff. But I haven't seen anything that's like super impressive. But it is a 2-mana tutor that's like the restrictions on it or whatever do not seem to be super harsh. Like they seem to be pretty simple.
What have you seen people trying to make with it? Because I haven't seen anyone talk about this card actually.
In Legacy, I've seen different versions where like they try to get Legacy and Modern. I've seen.
I mean, in Legacy, if you get 4 creatures in your graveyard, you could get like tendrils. But the thing is that it's just like you're not playing creatures in your.
No, yeah, I've seen Ad Nauseam as a card that's been brought up a couple times. I've seen this card talked about in Death Shadow. For like a Dundee, like in like Grixis Death Shadow that like doesn't want to play Traverse the Evenwald, but like they want to play green for Traverse. Like now you don't have to play green, so maybe you can play this, get Death Shadow. I've seen a couple things. What was the other card? I've seen a couple
Whoever
different
said
cards.
the Grixis Death Shadow thing was probably really smart.
Was it you,
Yeah.
Aaron?
I definitely said it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely me. So
I don't know if I heard it from you first. I've heard a lot of people saying this, but I'll
go
give you
check the
credit.
chat logs. It was me.
I'll give you credit, sure. Yeah, there's a couple things this can go in. Like, getting creatures in your graveyard has been proven historically to be not very hard. This is 2 mana. It's instant, which is not irrelevant, but I think a lot of the times you're going to be casting this as a sorcery. But it being an instant's nice. Like, it's nice that it's instant. It's just going to be Demonic Tutor, I think, a decent amount of times if you build your deck for it to be Demonic Tutor, which, again, it's not that hard.
What's
So
really
what are your
cool.
numbers, Tyler?
What? My rating on this?
What's your numbers?
I have this as like a 1 in Limited and like probably a 3 in Constructed.
I had it as a 1 in Limited as well. I have it as a 2.5 in Constructed. I've just really got to see the deck that really kind of sparks those thoughts.
Yeah, that's
for
true.
me.
I don't know where this goes yet. There's no deck I've seen that's like, oh yeah, this deck totally wants this card.
No.
So.
What's very cool, similar to the best card in Magic, Mystical Teachings, you can Mausoleum Secrets 4 Mausoleum Secrets if you have 2 creatures in your graveyard. Just get them.
Yeah, but there's no point because there's no flashback.
It does if you have the Surveil Caster Mage.
Yeah, but like it's still not up cards.
True. Ian, you got some numbers for me?
I think this is I think it's gonna be a 4 in Constructed. Like someone's gonna break it, and in Limited, I think it's probably like a 2. You just need to build around it to make it playable.
All right. Ooh, does anyone know how to pronounce this card?
Mephitic.
Mephitic Vapors. 2 and a black for a sorcery. It is a common. All creatures get -1/-1 until end of turn. Surveil 2. Have we ever seen an effect like this at common?
These effects have generally been uncommon. Like the card that's closest to this is probably Drown in Sorrows, but that was -2/-2 to everything, and you scryed. You scry 1 for 3 mana. But there was Make Obsolete in Kalash that was give all your opponent's creatures -1/-1, but that was an uncommon and an instant. This card's like pretty playable and limited. This card's playable because of Surveil.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I think this card didn't have Surveil, it'd be just a strictly sideboard card, but I think because of Surveil, it's main deckable for cards that care about Surveil. And again, we saw a decent amount of cards that have 1 toughness in this set, and we've talked about like there being a non-zero amount of pingers in this set, and this is kind of one of them.
Yeah, I think this is also like a really good sideboard card. Like I would take this when there's no other like cards in my colors, just so that I can, have this as a sideboard card and limit it against the.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it gives you a little bit of game against Selesnya and other tokeny based strategies.
Against them.
I also think that I think this card's main deckable most of the time, because I think there's going to be plenty of times where your board is worse than theirs, and you just make some bad attacks. They block their 4/4s on your 3/3s or whatever, and then post combat you play this as a wrath. I think that's a thing that can happen. I think this card's going to be I don't know if this card's going to go around super late.
Yeah.
I mean, you're right. It might not go around super late.
I've got it as a 2.5 and limited.
That's around where I have it.
Yeah, that's fine.
Any
think
kind of
it's a
constructed
solid-
applications, or there's just way too many better wraths, right?
No,
I think
there's
Plague Mare's just better.
there's Plague Mare, and there's Golden Demise for -2/-2. Yeah, there's
Ooh,
just
I
too
forgot about that card.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for the cheer. Pay the toll. 10 bits. Definitely appreciate it.
Windows sounds.
Yeah,
dancing.
my headset became unplugged there for a second, so that was pretty bad. Midnight Reaper. 2 and a black for a zombie knight. It is a rare. It is a 3/2, and it says whenever a non-creature token you control dies, Midnight Reaper deals 1 damage to you, and you draw a card.
Yeah, I think this card's awesome.
It's just Grim Haruspex, right?
Oh,
yeah, but you take a damage.
Yeah.
It's Grim Haruspex, so you take a damage.
I don't know what that is.
Grim Haruspex with this card with Morph, the only difference is that Grim Haruspex didn't do you a damage. Also, relevantly, Grim Haruspex didn't draw you a card when it itself died. This does. If this card dies, you draw a card.
That's very true.
Yeah, so that is the 2 relevant things
What were
between this and Grim
Haruspex?
Haruspex.
Stats.
I believe it was
3/2,
also a
3/2 for
3/2.
3.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a 3 for 3.
Okay.
I think that this
No,
card
but-
is for standard. I think that this card is very similar to Ruin Raiders, in the sense of what you would play for a card draw effect, and I'm not sure if it's better than Ruin Raider.
It's different. I think Ruin Raider is good in an aggressive deck, whereas this card's good in a self-sacrifice deck. This is a really good 3-drop for the Gruesome
Trogar
Menagerie
deck.
card, where you get back a 1, 2, and 3. This is a good 3-drop to get back
Yeah, that's true.
for that card.
You just sack your board to Trogar and draw a bunch of cards off of Midnight Reaver.
Yeah, you want some kind of repeatable sack outlet that's free.
Right.
I don't think there is one that exists right now, because
There
Henny is what we
is.
had, but that rotated. What do we have?
The 8-mana demon.
You have to pay life though. Don't you?
But, it's okay. It's not free, but it's free. If you get what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
But it's also 8 mana.
There's reanimation spells, man.
Yeah, there's a Demir
Wait.
reanimation spell, so somebody on this podcast told me.
What set is that card from?
Razakath?
It's from Ixalan or something? I don't remember.
Razakath.
Yeah, it's from one of the Ixalans, because it was something to do
Okay.
with Liliana and her demon
just
attacks.
kidding. It's rotating.
Oh,
No,
it's
I was gonna
it's
say, I think it's
rotating.
rotating.
Okay.
Yeah,
from
it's from
Hour.
Kaladesh, right, or something, or it's an hour. Okay, that's
From
what. It's,
Hour.
yeah,
Ah,
I was gonna say, I don't think that exists anymore. Because I'm pretty sure I did a Scryfall Scourge or something for like free sack
There's
outlets.
only
I
3
don't think.
demons now, which is the most upsetting part about.
Yeah, I don't think that it really exists. So again, there's like we've theoretically talked about some Aristocrats deck, and it's like again, there's pieces for it, but there's definitely important pieces missing, like a sack outlet and a blood artifact, which are like the most important pieces.
oh yeah. Definitely.
This card's real good limited though.
For sure.
I haven't-
Especially if you just
I haven't
have
seen a-
kind of junky creatures that you're just willing and actively attempting to throw away.
Yeah, this card's just 3.5 unlimited.
That is
Very
exactly where I had it.
Yep, same.
Yeah, just trade your guys, take your Death Touch guys and trade, and draw some cards. Take your Child of Knights, gain 2 life, take 1 back, trade, draw a card.
I definitely wouldn't be surprised if this was a Cedar card for a future Aristocrats deck. So
It looks like it. It looks like a Cedar card for
Yeah.
sure.
And you'll definitely be like thinking about that as we continue. There's a lot of cards in here that appear to be Cedar cards. So hopefully
Yeah.
Orzhov gives us some good aristocrats.
Yeah, Orzhov definitely feels like it's going to be some sack themed something.
Or Rakdos.
Maybe.
Yeah, could be.
I think people just want the original aristocrat back.
Falcon Wrath Aristocrat.
No, the cartel. What's
Is it
the
Falcon? Yeah,
the
it's
white black
Cartel.
one?
Yeah,
Or
What-
Cartel. It's Cartel.
Yeah,
Falcon Wreath is
Falcon Wrath was the
Innistrad.
mythic.
Yep, red black.
Isn't that Innistrad
Yeah,
though?
cartel
Falcon Wreath?
aristocrat. Yeah, so is cartel. I'm pretty sure, but it's like a something like that. But whatever, we can move on. This card's just good,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
just good and everything.
Mood Mark Painter. 2 black for a human shaman. So shaman tribal. 2/3 for a common, and it has undergrowth. When Mood Mark Painter enters the battlefield, target creature gains menace and gets +X/+O until end of turn, where X equals the number of creature cards in your graveyard.
So this card's like whatever in limited. It's just like a 4-mana 2/3, and the ability like is like you want to draw this card late. Like you want to draw this card late when you have like 8 creatures in your graveyard. I think this card could possibly have some construct application in kind of the deck you were talking about that plays Lotless Giant.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this is like copies of Lotless Giant, like 5 and 6 maybe, where it's like not as good because it doesn't directly dome them, but like it can give a guy like plus 15 plus on menace to like help get him through if you have like a random flyer or something.
And then you
Like,
flip
if
On
you
your
can
Narcomoeba. Do it on your Narcomoeba.
Yeah, exactly. Like put it on your Narcomoeba, give it like plus like 20 or whatever, plus 16, whatever, and that's just like another reanimation target for like you mill over this and a bunch of other stuff, and you can reanimate this. I don't know. Lotless Giant might like put this card out of a job, but it's a possibility that this card sees play and constructed. For limited though, this card's like a 1.5, I think.
Yep, that's pretty much where I had it. Any other thoughts? Or actually, I had it as a 2. I'm just a little higher up on kind of stats and effects like this.
Yeah, it is
Yeah,
good
it's fine.
late, but it's a 2/3.
I think it's
So
3 unlimited. I think this card will see play every time, and I think it's 2 in constructed, probably closer to 1.5.
Fair enough. Ian, you got any numbers?
That's about it. I'm not gonna waste time talking about the card like more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Necrotic Wound. It's a single black for an instant. It's an uncommon. It has undergrowth, and target creature gets -X/-X, where X equals the number of creature cards in your graveyard. And if that creature would die this turn, exile it instead. This card is a premium removal spell, and I think it's going to see a lot of play in Standard.
I don't know. I'm like, I don't know. To be fair, I am not a fan of the Stitcher Supplier decks. Like, I'm not on board with the bandwagon of Stitcher Supplier and like the Golgari like 3/1 that mills you and stuff. I'm not on board with those decks. If this finds a home, it's definitely there. But other than that, I don't think this card is great and constructed, in limited, it's fine. If this card's ever -2/-2, it's like it's good. It's a good combat trick. If ever more than -2/-2, it's great. So this card's like very good in limited. You guys can talk about it for constructed. I'm not a believer yet.
Yeah, I've got it like as a 3.5 in limited. I like that it exiles your phoenixes. With recursive threats, it exiles your 3/1 lifelink card. I think that's why you hate it, because it just removes the threat from your win comless control deck.
It is good against that card.
Yeah, very good against that one. But this seems like an Ian card through and through. Well, what you got on this one, Ian?
Yeah, so I think this card's great. I think that it's the new Fatal Push in a sense. That's just a 1-mana like kill most of the things in the format. I think the big thing though is that you're not actually gonna be able to play this on turn 1,
Right.
unless you somehow are able to mill your library like pretty hard on turn 1 for 0 mana, which I don't think is possible.
No.
So yeah, I think that this card is going to be run, but I don't think that you can pack like 4 of like you could with Fatal Push.
Right.
Just because you don't want it on turn 1.
Street Wraith and Modern, get them.
Dude, nice.
Let's see, what else cycles for free? Fairy Macabre, Street Wraith.
I have a question real quick for Ian. Do you think that this card can see play in like any random mid-range creature deck, or do you think you need to like be consciously trying to mill yourself?
I think that you just have to have a high potent amount of creatures in general. So
like,
I
if
think
you-
that you could just be a mid-range deck that isn't really an undergrowth deck, but
So if you're playing like
if you can just
20-something
get this
creatures,
stuff, yeah, like if you can get
can-
4, if you can get 4 creatures in your graveyard, I think this card is. I mean, I guess 3 is really where for 1 mana it's gonna be worth it. Anything more than even 2, it's still like a shock. Which we've talked about before with the So I think that you can compare this to that enchantment that we were talking about that's been reprinted a good amount.
Deadweight.
Deadweight.
Yeah, obviously it's not an enchantment, so that it's not gonna happen. That's not gonna stay on the creature, but you can do this in combat because it's an instant. And I think more likely than not, if you can get the undergrowth effect, that you'd rather just play this than the enchantment.
I do agree that the exile clause in this card makes me feel like that Wizards thinks it's constructed playable. Like, this card feels like they expect it to be in standard. I am not, like, I don't have it in any of my mid-range lists, really, because I think that it's too much of a liability when, like, there's, like, plenty of other fine removal that the upside of this being, like, a 1 mana is not enough for the downside of it not doing what you want. But it's interesting. It's certainly, like, powerful. Again, if this is ever -3/-3, it's, like, better Ulcerate, which Ulcerate was already, like, a, like, close removal spell, and this exiles, so...
I'm on board with it's going to be standard playable train. I think even the mid-range decks are going to want this in attrition battles, because over the course of the time, this removal spell will end up being better than I think their opponents on rate, and then they'll be able to follow it up with threat rather than having to spend the 4 mana for Vraska's Contempt. Although I do still think Vraska's Contempt is probably a better, well-rounded removal spell. So.
Definitely.
I think it's a 3 in limited, and probably a 2.75 in limited, or in constructed. Sorry.
I had it as 3.5 in limited, 2.5 in standard. I feel like a deck will want this probably 2, maybe even 3 copies.
In limited, I don't know if this is a 3.5. I think it might be just be a 3, because I do think that, like, you need to have... Like, I don't know if every Dimir deck wants this card.
That's
No,
Like,
fair.
they'll play if they have it.
Yeah.
I think.
I know, but I'm saying, like, if you're, like, in a draft, right, in pack 1, pick 1, this card's in your pack, like, how high are you on it? That's what I'm saying, is, like, I'm not, like, super nuts to take this card.
Yeah.
Like, I'll take this card over, like, plenty of other cards, but that's why I think it's probably at a 3 in limited. And I have it as a 2 in constructed.
I think it's a 3 in both.
Alright. Never happened. 2 and a black for a sorcery. Target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from that player's graveyard or hand and exile it. It's a common.
A+ name, like maybe the best name in the set.
Yeah.
This card's a sideboard card in limited,
Yeah.
not constructed. This card will not touch constructed ever. In limited though, like this is the card that it's in your sideboard rotting, and then your opponent has like the Doom Whisperer or some unbeatable bomb rare that your deck is like physically incapable of ever beating, and you sideboard this card in to hope to spike and to make him discard it. That's all this card does.
Yeah.
If this becomes a Prince set rather than a Pauper set, Prince sets are sets that are rare heavy and bomb dependent. I believe this will be main decked, but if it's a Pauper set where it's mostly commons and uncommons, this will be a sideboard card for sure.
I think it's mostly commons and uncommons. Even like I watched some of the team sealed from MTG Worlds, and like there's a lot of just efficient commons to be able to beat into each other. So I don't think that. And again, that was team sealed, so that's not 100% accurate representation of the format 100% of the time. But I think it's enough to get a feel that it's not super bomb oriented. So I think this card's mostly a cyber card. Yeah.
No,
But
I
it's a
think
good
so,
point. Like, yeah, if like it's becomes like that, maybe, but it's just a cyber card. I have it as a 1, probably.
It's a 1. Gotcha. See, I jumped the gun. I pegged you for a 1.5 kind of guy.
No,
Yeah,
this card. Yeah,
Mm,
it's
sorry.
not good. This card's not good. It's a 1.
Ian, yeah, you were saying something?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I think that this card is it's just you really need to want the exile effect. So I don't think it's gonna come up often.
So you have it as a 1 as well?
Yeah. Sorry.
All right. Pilfering Imp. It is a single black imp. It is a 1/1. It's an uncommon. It has flying. It also has the activated ability, 1 and a black. Tap. Sacrifice Pilfering Imp. Target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from it. That player discards that card. Activate this ability only anytime you could cast a sorcery.
This card sucks.
Yeah, I am not too
So-
interested in this card.
I disagree, but okay.
Really? Well, let me say my piece real quick. So I am way lower on 1-mana 1/1s that are not in red and white, basically because of Mentor. So in red and white, I am much higher on them because Mentor can make them 2/2s or even 3/3s, which then become very relevant bodies. This card is a 1-mana 1/1 flyer, which we talked about before, is not usually playable in limited, and this card is not in the colors of Mentor, so I don't see this card being playable. And the ability being only a sorcery prevents you from doing like some draw step shenanigans, and like you have to sack it and like pay a decent amount of mana for just a like Thoughtseize effect. I don't think that this card is good limited. I think this card is like probably 1.5.
That is exactly where I had it in limited.
I think that the Thoughtseize effect is relevant, and that it just being a creature for a little bit is fine. I don't know. I think that you're going to see a lot of people playing this in limited.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
but
might
will
not
be
be
correct.
Yeah. I don't know if it'll be great. I think that if you really want to attack someone's hands, it's going to do the job pretty well. Yeah, I think it's a little bit higher, closer to like a 2.5.
I'm at a 2.5 on it. I think it'll see play in limited, and I think it's a 1 constructed. It'll rarely ever see play. So,
You think this card could see playing constructed?
if there's a deck that fit it, I mean,
I'm gonna be right back. Sorry.
so I if there's a deck that fit the need of wanting a 1-drop creature that can attack a hand later on, let's say on a crucial turn where there's a wrath coming down, I feel like it could.
So like a mono black aggro deck?
Yeah, like Bone Picker's still in standard, right?
I think it's rotating.
No, Bone
'cause
Picker
that's from
rotated.
Amonkhet.
That was
It's
Amonkhet.
rotating. Oh, never mind.
Yeah, all the cards you want to play with are rotating. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that one Dread Wanderer's gone. Is another important one. Baleful Emmet's gone. Although you do have Dreadshaid now. So
all the good cards are gone.
I know,
So.
it's about time for you to
But
retire.
I'm not going to write it off in constructed. I'm going to say it's very unlikely though.
That's fair.
I will. I'll write it off.
All right.
Plague
Plague
Crafter. 2 and a black for a human shaman. It's an uncommon. It's a 3/2. And when it enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices a creature or planeswalker. Each player who can't discards a card. This is just an upgraded Fleshback Marauder.
Yeah, so Fleshback Marauder and Merciless Executioner, which is just Fleshback Marauder with a different name.
Yep.
Those cards saw play in Standard. Last time they were in Standard. This card is better in almost every way. Like, playing this after your opponent like resolves a Teferi on an empty board, kills their Teferi.
Yep.
Because they have to sacrifice, and if they can't, then they discard. They don't get to choose to discard.
Right.
So that's nice. It has 2 toughness, which is like a pretty big deal because the other ones had 1 toughness.
Right.
This is also another good 3-drop to bring back with Gruesome Menagerie because that's a good ETB.
Ooh, yeah.
And like you can sack your 1-drop you get back too.
Yeah.
A card that's again this Fleshback Marauder saw play in Rally Ancestors, which was the last like real aristocrats. Well, I guess not, because there was one after Rally rotated, but like Rally Ancestors was the last like dominant aristocrats deck that saw play in Standard, and it played Fleshback Marauder. So I think this card's playable outside of that though. To be fair, like I think this card is a good sideboard card for like mid-range decks and possibly main deck, but like I think this card is quite good.
I think
Like
so, too.
sacrifice effects. Doomfall and Eldritch Reborn both like saw a decent amount of play before rotation as like sac effects, and this is just another good one that's playable.
What do you have it at?
In limited, I think this card's also good in limited. It's nice. Also, there's a decent amount of like your luminous bonds, your enchantments that make a card basically dead. You can sacrifice or like tap forever. You can sacrifice those cards and make your opponent sack a real card in limited, which is nice. But again, it works both ways. So like if they have a card that's like a useless token 1/1 like against Selesnya, or if they have a card that you luminous bonds or something or whatever, like if you're Dimir and you like put the like tap a creature, keep it tapped, and you like play this card, they just get to sack their thing that's tapped or whatever. So it's not great. So it's this card's dependent on what deck you have it and what cards you have, and matchup dependent. So I don't think this card's nuts and limited. It's probably still 3 though, because it's never bad. This card's like never bad. In constructed though, I think this card's like closer to like a 3, maybe a 3.5 even.
Yep. I
I'm
have
a-
3
I'm
and
a little-
3.5 as well. For
On
some
constructed.
reasons.
I think it's going to go only a specific deck, and I got it at a 2 in constructed and a 3 in limited. So
Yeah, I think this is like different. I think it's like easy to compare this card to Fleshback Marauder, but I think it's much better and doesn't need to be in a deck like where you care about sacking creatures. So I think I think it's more flexible. But yeah, we'll see.
All right, time for the premium uncommon removal spell. Price of Fame. 3 and a black for an instant. It's an uncommon, and it says this spell costs 2 less to cast if it targets a legendary creature. Destroy target creature. Surveil 2.
So again, real quick with this card, I think most of the conversation is going to be constructed.
Yep.
This card is like probably the best removal spell in limited.
Yep.
I'm not sure about that, but like at least from what we've seen so far,
Yep.
like not including the wraths, this is probably the best targeted removal spell we've seen so far.
Yep.
I mean, the
It's
white
like-
enchantment's pretty good too.
Yeah, but this is instant speed, surveil 2, and destroy anything. Like that's
Not
really
anything.
good.
Any creature.
Yeah, but like yeah, you're right. The convoke conclave thing is like very good. I think this is probably better because I think most of the time what you're trying to kill with the O-ring is a creature, and this is an instant field and surveils.
Yeah,
So I actually think
I
this
agree.
card's
This is
better.
very good.
So yeah, but this card's like nuts. I might even have it as like it's like a 3.5, maybe even a 4 unlimited. But in constructed, I think it's where it's interesting because of the clause that says this spell costs 2 less to cast if it targets a legendary creature.
Oh yeah.
That's really what we're looking at here for constructed.
It's just
because at 4 mana, it's not playable really.
Yeah. But it provides you a 2-mana answer to so many just big, flying threats. It answers your Lyras of the world, your Aurelias, your Niv Mizzets, your Nicol Bolasses. There's just a very high density of very powerful mythic and legendary rather creatures in this format. Mostly thanks to Dominaria.
Yeah, but I was talking with Ian the other day actually, and I was bringing up that there's no 2-mana spell that kills Aurelia. Like, Aurelia is just like immune to like so many of the commonly played removal spells in Standard, and he brought this up as like this is like the only quote unquote 2-mana removal spell that kills it. So I think that's not irrelevant, especially since like the Boros decks are probably going to play Aurelia and Tajik. Like, the problem is that this card might just be a sideboard card because it's not good against every deck. Like, not every deck is going to guarantee to have legends. There's plenty of good non-legendaries. A lot of legends rotated.
Yeah.
But like again, there's still Lyras hanging around. Again, the Boros cards. Sai, I think, is going to see much less play because I think all the good artifacts rotated with Kaladesh.
Yep.
So I think Sai is not really going to be around much to kill that. But like, that's a good one if it was around. Yeah, there's not a ton of legendaries. Shalai is another good one.
Yep. That
this kills. But I don't think it'll see play in Standard, but it's definitely a card to keep your eye on where, like, if there's like a decent amount of legends that see play because like nothing kills those legends, this kills those legends.
For sure.
And Surveil 2, which is not irrelevant.
Yep. Surveil 2 is just kind of the icing on this cake.
And it's not like it doesn't kill non-legendaries. Like, let's be clear with that. Like, it kills anything. But you really want this spell to cost 2. Because if it costs 4, then it's like, why aren't you just playing Grasp Contempt? Like, what's the point?
Yep.
But in a worst case scenario, this will still kill a thing. Always.
Yep. Yeah, I've got it as like a 4 in limited. It's just a really efficient removal spell. I'm not going to be unhappy to first pick it. I've got it as a 3.5 in constructed. It'll probably see maybe 1 or 2 main deck copies, but I think where it really shines is in the sideboard. I can agree on that one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm at a 3.5 in limited and a 2.5 in constructed, so
I'm going to pull a pay the toll and go 3.75 in limited.
Ooh.
And I'm going to go 2 in constructed.
Okay.
I like the 0.75. It's a real class act.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Ritual of Soot. 2 black for a sorcery. It's a rare. Destroy all creatures with converted mana cost 3 or less. Isn't this card just... I mean, if there is a token deck that doesn't just outright kill you, this card's good against that. So like a kind of well, I don't know. The Knights decks are probably pretty fast. Yeah, I don't know about this one either. Aaron, any thoughts on this one? This one's a weird one.
4 mana Wraths have always been typically played. We were pretty high on the 3 mana. I think it was toughness 4 or more earlier in white.
Yep.
And I feel like this card has a lot of the same applications. It's going to prevent you from getting beat down early, it'll definitely get played out of the sideboard. And I'm not sure if we'll see 4 of in main decks for constructed, but I have a feeling it'll get played in limited as a, you don't play anything until turn 5, and then your opponent plays out turn 2 to turn 3, and then you just 2-for-1 them. So
yeah.
I think it'll be like a 3 in limited and a 2.5 in constructed.
I think this card's great in limited. I think any Wrath of any kind is great in limited. I think this card, also I want to be clear, I think this card's better than the white destroy all creatures with toughness 4 or greater or whatever. I think this card's better than that card. Because I think there's more creatures with CMC 3 or less than there are creatures with toughness 4 or more. So I think this will be more of a real Wrath than the other card, and just kill more things.
Right.
Like, I think this card's great in limited. I almost want to put it as a 4 in limited. Like, I'll first pick this card a lot. But in constructed is where I, am really torn. So I'm one of the biggest fans of the card Languish
Oh yeah.
of all time, and I think that's like where people go to a lot with this card because it's like close because it's a 4-mana Wrath that kills just small things and not big things,
Right.
which is kind of what Languish did. It's interesting because and this one is way different because it's harder to see convert mana cost than something like 4 toughness, whereas like that in constructed, not many cards will have more than 4 toughness, especially if you're a deck that has a lot of creatures. Whereas I think it's reasonable to just play a couple 4-drop creatures in your mid-range decks, especially if the format slows down. So I don't know how much this is the biggest variance card I think in all of the set for standard.
Yeah.
This could see anywhere from no play at all, like none, not sideboard, not main deck, anywhere, to like a.
Oh, did you drop out? Did Discord die?
I'm here.
Okay, you're here. He must have dropped out. That was an interesting thought, but I'm not sure exactly when his internet's going to come back. So we may just have to loop back around to that one later, and I can do some editing magic. So I'm going to give myself like a. Oh, do you have something else to say about it?
No, I was say, do you have a number on it?
Yeah, I've got like a 3 in limited and a 2.5 in constructed, just for similar reasons that Tyler was saying.
Yeah. All right.
Well, Severed Strands, 1 and a black for a sorcery. As an additional cost to cast the spell, sacrifice a creature. You gain life equal to the sacrificed creature's toughness. Destroy target creature an opponent controls. It's a sorcery at common. I think the additional cost of having to sack a creature could be incredibly relevant if you're in Golgari and you really care about Undergrowth. Other than that, I guess it really depends on, if you've got some tokens, if you've got some easy things to sack. It could be an interesting limited card. I don't think it has any current constructed applications until we kind of see if there's any more aristocrat pieces later on. But I think this is just kind of a worse removal spell than the removal spells we've already seen. But that being said, it still is a removal spell, so you probably play one, probably only in Golgari, though.
I think for sure, what was it? Not Bone Shredder. There was a Bow Splinter, yep. It's historically a card that's played in Tokens deck, and it's good, and this has just got the gain life stuff added on. And if the Undergrowth decks are trying to race, I see this being relevant with any kind of token making, so.
I've probably got it as like 2 in limited and not playable in constructed.
Yep, I'm exactly the same, so.
Real quick for constructed, Vicious Offering is just like better than this card.
Oh yeah, much
because
better.
it's instant
Much better.
and does something without sacking a creature. In limited, I think it's going to be Cyber most of the time. Maybe you'll main deck it, but it's good to bring in if your opponent has a bunch of enchant removal spells, because you can sack your guys that have been enchanted that are already practically dead.
Very true. So what do you have it as? Like 1.5, 2?
I don't. It's close. It's between a 1.5 and a 2. I'm gonna start out as a 1.5.
I was going to put you
maybe
literally in
it'll
the middle
get
with
better.
another 1.75, but
No, I don't like to do that. I only do it when I have to.
okay, fair enough. All right, well, here's something that pays us all for sacrificing key creatures, kind of. Spinal Centipede. It is 2 and a black for a 3/2 common, and it says when Spinal Centipede dies, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control.
This card was just an Omnigate, wasn't it?
There was something very similar to it.
There's a 3. I'm pretty sure there's a 3-mana 3/2 that when it died, put a counter or something.
Yeah,
And that
there
card was
wasn't-
like fine.
Yeah.
This card's the same.
Yep. Yep. Probably fine and limited, really no constructed applications. But again, it could trade up. It can make your smaller creatures bigger, also letting them trade. So probably in exclusively Golgari, you'll probably play this card. So for that reason, I've probably got it as like 2, 2.5.
I'll put it as 2.5. I think this will go in any black deck. It trades, makes your 2/2 a 3/3, makes 3/3 a 4/4, so on and so forth.
Yeah. I mean,
Put a counter on your flyer. It's like kind of relevant.
Yeah.
Pretty relevant.
It can turn any of your 2-mana 1/1s into a bear, which is just great.
I think that in the off-color pairs, say that you don't have any gold cards going to, which is going to be very infrequent. But let's say you're playing like a Jund or an Abzan where there's some mentor cards. This card will be more relevant. That you can put it on a mentor card that you're playing with your other colors. So I think it's like a 2.75 in limited. So
I think it's so unlikely that you're not going to end up in a guild, just because there's so many multicolored cards and the lockets and the guild gates. That it's just like I feel like it's almost impossible to not end up in a guild.
well, I mean, there's still off guilds. It's just not supported guilds.
Yeah, but like this is not a card I want to splash. But maybe you'll splash like a good mentor card. Yeah.
Queen Chat, again, lifesaver with his encyclopedic knowledge. The card was an Amonkhet, and the card was called the Lawless Broker. Same stats, same text, except for it was an Aetherborn Rogue, so it saw play in the Rogue tribal deck.
Praise be to Queen.
Yep.
Oh yeah, that's right. It was in Kaladesh, not Amonkhet. I said Amonkhet. I was wrong.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Yeah, Kaladesh. All right.
Yeah.
So here is a sack outlet, kind of. I mean, it does have the text sacrifice a creature on it.
Another creature.
Yeah. Undercity Necrosilisk? Necrolist? Undercity Necrolist. 3 and a black for a zombie lizard. It is an uncommon. It is a 3/3. It has the activated ability 1, sacrifice another creature. Put a +1/+1 counter on Undercity Necrolist. It gains menace until end of turn. Activate this ability only time you could cast a sorcery.
This is the kind of card that I usually don't play with.
Yeah.
I don't like these kinds of cards when they have the text that says activate this ability only time you cast a sorcery.
Mm-hmm.
When you can activate them at instant speed, they become much better. But because you can save things from removal spells, hello. We're on Undercity Necrolist. Yeah. I think it's Necrolist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but this card's like not unplayable. I have it probably around a 2 though. Like I'll play it as 2.5. The fact that it gets counters and not just like +1/+1 till end of turn makes this like not the worst. And if you ever play this on turn like 5 or something and like play this, sacrifice your creature that has the Luminous Bonds on it, and it's just a 4/4. It's like pretty good then.
There's that Doomed Traveler card in white.
The Hunted Witness.
Hunted Witness, yeah.
I wish that this card wasn't only as a sorcery, because then it'd be very close to the Thallid card from Dominaria, which was really great.
Yeah. The thing, this being only as a sorcery is like makes the sack cards way worse.
Especially just because like you also want to use it as a combat trick, but you can't really. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the threat of activation is usually good enough to let the card go through.
Also, you can protect it from burn spells, like your other creatures and that creature. Like.
Yep. Yeah, that's true. The fact that like if this is a 3/3 and it gets targeted by, like a lightning strike, it just dies.
Yes.
Yeah, so Tyler and I both have it as a 2.5 in limited. I don't think it really has any constructed applications. Any numbers for me from anybody else?
Yeah, that's about it. Just limited, like 2.5-ish.
Cool. Aaron?
2.5 as well.
Wow. We actually all agree on a card for once. Who would have thunk? All right, Veiled Shade. 2 and a black for a shade. It's a common. It has 1 and a black. Veiled Shade gets +1/+1 until end of turn, and it is a 2/2. I think this is kind of filler in limited. It's a good mana sink. The fact that you can give it +1/+1, pretty good. Activation cost relatively cheap, but at the end of the day, nothing too exciting.
Yeah, this card's only limited, but to note, shades always overperform in limited, always.
Yeah.
So
Fire
this card's like. Yeah, it gets toughness too, so it's like I think this card's like I think I might have this card as a 3. This is like one of the better black commons, I think.
No.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Yeah, I had it as like a 2.5. You know, I don't typically play with cards like these, but I could see myself playing with something like this. It's a really good ability. Alright, Vicious Rumors. A single black mana for a sorcery. Vicious Rumors deals 1 damage to each opponent. Excuse me. Vicious Rumors. 1 black, sorcery. Vicious Rumors deals 1 damage to each opponent. Each opponent discards a card, and then puts the top card of their library into their graveyard. You gain 1 life. It's a common. This is a direct damage burn spell for Ian's black burn deck.
Yeah.
Yeah, this card's horrible.
Yeah. I've got it as a straight 1. I would not be happy to play this in limited. 0 constructed applications. Card's just not good.
0 in both for me.
Some constructed applications.
Yeah. Oh yes, exactly.
so-
Ian's burn deck.
No. So this card is unplayable limited. I think it's like pretty clear. I'll have it as I guess a 0. Yeah, I think I'm confident putting this as a 0 in limited. In constructed, this is a 1 mana card that gains life and does something else not completely irrelevant.
That's
so if
true.
there is a more like we saw some life gain matters cards from M19. If there is a kind of like low to the ground life gain matters deck that's like black white, which is kind of what the colors it would be if it was that. This is 1 mana, gain a life, and they discard a card, which is like not nothing. If you're
Right.
triggering a bunch of life gain stuff, this does that. It's 1 mana, which is as cheap as it can be. They discard a card, so you're actually getting a card out of this as well as getting the life gain to trigger your other stuff. And the damage is mostly relevant, but like maybe if you're kind of aggressive, it's like kind of nice. But I don't think there's 0% chance this card sees some play in a life gain matters deck in constructed. That being said, I'll put it as a 1 in constructed.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I kind of forgot about the life gain matters synergies.
Yeah, it's very small chance. I also don't think those decks are good, but maybe.
What's the card that does like sacrificing creatures and a bunch of other stuff too with it? It's played in...
There was like Sinister Concoction? Is that what you're thinking
No,
of?
it's black.
Are you comparing this card to Smallpox?
Smallpox is the card I'm thinking of that did a bunch of things. And
Yeah, this card is not Smallpox.
Smallpox is obviously not Smallpox, but people tried to play Smallpox in Standard and it didn't get there. I don't believe, if I remember correctly, during that format.
But
That's
I
like
wasn't
when I first started
around.
playing. That's like when I first started playing seriously again, and I would not be surprised though if later on it saw something in another side of things. So
I think the only way this card sees play is if you really want cheap ways to gain life.
I think that the artifact that's in Standard currently is probably way better than this. If you're looking for that reliably gains you life every turn.
No.
Maybe that doesn't do it right away though, and like this gives you a card on top of it.
I'm at 101, so
Yeah.
Yeah,
Show me a list and maybe I'll be into it. But for now, I kind of am with you though. 0, 0, and 1, not playable in limited. Okay, and constructed if it finds the right home.
I still think it's a 0 in both. I don't have faith.
totally fair.
All right, last black card, Whispering Snitch, 1 and a black for a vampire rogue. It's an uncommon. It's a 1/3. Whenever you surveil for the first time each turn, Whispering Snitch deals 1 damage to each opponent, and you gain 1 life. I don't know if
I
there's going
think
to
this-
be... Oh, go ahead.
I think this card might have been in the like combo deck I talked about earlier with the Doom Whisper Demon
Yeah, the big demon.
and
Yeah.
the Creeping Chill. It's just like another way to like kind of gain life back, so you can help go through your library quicker with the demon. That's basically it for constructed. It's like if you play some deck that is going heavy with the demon, maybe if there's like a heavy surveil deck in Standard, maybe it could be a sideboard card to like instantly gain you some life. but I don't think so. In limited, I think this card's quite good though. Like draining in the Dimir decks is pretty relevant because it helps you not only gain life to not die, but them taking one each time is nice because it helps you turn the corner faster. So you like because there's a couple burn spells in this set as we'll see as we go forward. So being able to like just incidentally getting them down to like 15 when you start hitting with your like 4 or 5 power flyer to reduce the clock by a turn or two is not irrelevant when turning the corner in these like Dimir control decks.
So what do you got for numbers, bud?
In limited, I have this card as probably like a 2.5. In constructed, I'll put it as a 1 for like again possible combo or sideboard applications.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that one.
Yeah, 2.5 in limited sounds about right, and I think that in constructed it's just not playable. So 0 in constructed.
2 in limited and 1 in constructed. So for the reasons listed above.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And that does it for the black cards. Does anybody have any closing thoughts on black?
What did I miss?
Just a couple of cards. We can go back over it later, and I can get you in.
Not a ton. Black has good removal at common. Shocker, shocker. For limited. There's a couple like cool graveyardy stuff, which is like again common of black. I think we all are kind of on board with Boros and Mentor being like really where we want to be, but I don't hate killing creatures and getting value.
I could easily see you being able to play an Abzan limited deck because of the gates, because you get the Celestia and the Golgari gates. So I think that you could play like a Celestia beatdown deck that has really good removal. That's kind of where I'm going to try to make my decks in limited go.
Yeah.
It also works. There's like a couple sacrifice creature things that work well with Celestia that makes tokens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Anything else? All right.
No,
I'm going to do my sign off. So, thank you all for tuning in and for tuning me out. We're going to stop the YouTube recording here. We're going to take a small little break and hit up red. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe for all the latest Deece Plus content, as we are the Deece Plus podcast. You can follow on Twitter, you can follow on YouTube, you can follow on Twitch, you can subscribe on YouTube, you can also subscribe on Twitch, you can subscribe for free if you have Amazon Prime by linking your accounts. And thank you for watching the set review.
Deece Plus podcast outtakes.
That you should do to like get your voice warmed up is octopi occupy a porcupine's mind. Octopi occupy a porcupine's mind. Octopi occupy a porcupine's mind. All right, there we go. No, octopi occupy a porcupine's mind.
I'm in there. So let me slide in those DMs.
All right.
Octa dad. Octa child.
James Bond's Octopussy. Okay. What you should do to like get your voice warmed up is octopi occupy a porcupine's mind. Octopi occupy a porcupine's mind. Octopi occupy a porcupine's mind. All right, there we go. No, octopi occupy a porcupine's mind.
I'm in there. So let me slide in those DMs.
All right.
Octa dad. Octa child.
James Bond's Octopussy. Okay. It's more like an otter, not quite a bear.
That's the weirdest thing.
Let's go into a very in-depth analysis of what type of animal this card is.
Nah, you can
No.
watch. You can watch Always Sunny for that. All right.
Yeah.